The South is known for its rich history, deep-rooted traditions, and warm hospitality. But beneath the surface of its charming small towns and sprawling plantations lies a much darker side, a world of restless spirits, haunted roads, and eerie mansions where the past refuses to stay buried. Tonight, we journey deeper into the supernatural as we uncover more haunted places in the South. Prepare yourself for chilling tales of ghostly encounters, mysterious whispers, and places where the line between the living and the dead blurs. Welcome to the Haunted Tales. And remember, not all who wander are lost, some are simply trapped. The Crying Child of Sturtevant Hall, Selma, Alabama, is a city draped in history, its past whispering through the grand antebellum homes that line its streets. Among them stands Sturtevant Hall, an architectural masterpiece of Greek Revival design, with towering columns and sprawling verandas that have watched over the town since the 1850s. Beneath its beauty, however, lingers a sorrowful presence, a specter that has unsettled visitors for over a century. The legend tells of a child's mournful cries echoing through its halls, a wailing that chills the blood and rattles the nerves. Locals speak of an innocent soul forever trapped within the walls of Sturtevant Hall, doomed to lament its untimely fate. But few dare to ask the question, who was the child? And why does it still cry? A new assignment when journalist Emma Clark arrived in Selma. She had no interest in ghost stories. Her focus was historical preservation, and she had been assigned an article on Alabama's most significant landmarks. Sturtevant Hall was at the top of her list. "Stay at the house if you dare," the woman at the visitor center joked when Emma asked about overnight accommodations. Emma scoffed. "I don't scare easily." "Oh, it's not about fear, sweetheart," the woman said. "It's about whether you can handle the crying." Emma frowned. "What crying?" But the woman only smiled and handed her a brochure. A house of tragedy. That evening, Emma stood before Sturtevant Hall, its white facade bathed in moonlight. A local historian had arranged for her to stay the night in the preserved mansion, and she had jumped at the opportunity. The interior was stunning, crystal chandeliers, ornate moldings, and velvet drapes still holding the elegance of a bygone era. Yet, there was an unmistakable heaviness in the air, a weight that pressed against her chest as she walked the corridors. She set up her camera in the grand foyer, speaking softly into her recorder. Sturtevant Hall was once home to John Parkman, a wealthy banker whose fortune crumbled after the Civil War. He was arrested for embezzlement and died in a failed escape attempt. Many believe his spirit haunts this house, but there is another presence here. The Crying Child. Emma flipped through her notes. The legend was vague. Visitors had reported hearing soft whimpers, sometimes escalating into full-blown sobs, but no records confirmed the identity of the child. Determined to uncover the truth, she explored the rooms one by one, taking pictures and jotting down details. As she passed by the nursery, a chill ran up her spine. The crib. It was rocking. Emma froze. The air in the room shifted, heavy with sorrow. Then, a faint sound, a sniffle. A child's sniffle. Emma swallowed hard. "Hello?" Silence, then a whisper. "Help me." Her blood turned to ice. The voice was small, trembling. Not a threat, just a plea. Emma grabbed her recorder and pressed play. "Who are you?" she whispered. Static crackled. Then, faintly, the voice returned. "I want to go home." The forgotten boy determined to learn more, Emma scoured the mansion's records late into the night. She found nothing about a child's death in the house. But then, buried beneath old estate documents, she found a faded letter written in shaky penmanship. To whom it may concern, I write in sorrow. The boy is gone. He cried for his mother, but she did not come. I fear his spirit will not rest. No name. No details. Just a haunting clue. Emma rubbed her temples. Who was the boy? How did he die? And why was his ghost still here, trapped in this house of faded grandeur? Then, the crying started again. It was louder this time, echoing through the halls. A desperate, gut-wrenching sob. Emma's hands trembled as she reached for her flashlight. I hear you, she called. Where are you? A door creaked upstairs. She climbed the staircase, heart pounding. The sobs led her to a locked door at the end of the hall. The attic. She hesitated, then tried the knob. It was cold beneath her fingers, resisting at first, then slowly turning with an eerie groan. Inside, dust clung to forgotten relics, old trunks, broken furniture, and a single wooden rocking chair swaying gently as though recently occupied. And then, in the dim light, she saw him. A small boy, no older than 6, standing near the window in a tattered nightshirt. His blonde curls were unkempt, his tiny hands clutching a ragged stuffed bear. He looked up, and Emma gasped, his eyes sunken, hollow, filled with infinite sorrow. Are you lost? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The boy nodded, a tear rolling down his cheek. I can help you, she promised. Tell me your name. His lips trembled. James. The hidden truth, James. The name sent a shiver down Emma's spine. She had not come across it in any records. She stepped closer. James, what happened to you? His lower lip quivered. I was hiding, he murmured. Mama said to stay quiet. But I got scared. Emma's throat tightened. What were you hiding from? He lowered his head. The bad men. Her pulse quickened. I ran up here, James continued. But the door locked. I cried, but nobody came. Emma's stomach clenched. Was it possible that James had been trapped in the attic and never found? The pieces fell into place. A hidden tragedy. A child left behind. She knelt before him. James, you're not alone anymore. I'll help you. His eyes flickered with hope. Will you take me home? Emma's chest ached. She reached out, her hand passing through his ghostly form, a cold shock rippling through her skin. I don't know how, she admitted, voice breaking. James' form flickered. His sobs returned, louder, shaking the walls. Then, a door slammed downstairs. Emma whirled. The temperature plummeted, and a deep, guttural growl reverberated through the house. Something else was here. James whimpered, clinging to his bear. Emma grabbed her recorder, whispering urgently. Who is here with us? A harsh voice hissed through the static. Mine! The door behind her slammed shut. Breaking the curse, Emma's instincts screamed for her to run, but James needed her. She turned to the boy. James, listen to me. You don't have to stay here. Your mother would want you to find peace. Tears spilled from his haunted eyes. I don't know how. The shadows in the room twisted. The malevolent presence loomed closer. Emma acted on instinct. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her notes, finding an old hymn about passing spirits to rest. She began to sing. The darkness howled, but James began to glow. A soft, golden light surrounded him. His tears stopped. His tiny face relaxed. Then he smiled. "Mama's calling me." And with that, he faded. The room fell silent. The air lightened. The darkness receded. Emma let out a shaky breath. The crying had stopped. Forever. The ghost bride of Cedar Grove Mansion. The grand Cedar Grove Mansion loomed in the moonlight, its antebellum columns casting eerie shadows against the overgrown gardens. Once a place of lavish parties and southern elegance, it now stood as a reminder of a tragic past. Tourists often came to see the estate's beauty, but locals whispered about something else, something darker. They spoke of Elizabeth Beaumont, the ill-fated bride of Cedar Grove, who still wandered its halls, her spectral presence forever trapped in a wedding that never was. The wedding that never happened in 1863. Cedar Grove was the most enviable estate in Vicksburg, owned by the wealthy Beaumont family. Their daughter, Elizabeth, was the jewel of Southern society, radiant, charming, and hopelessly in love with a young Confederate officer named William Henshaw. Their wedding was set for a crisp autumn evening, a grand event that promised to be the most extravagant the town had ever seen. But fate had other plans. On the morning of her wedding day, Elizabeth prepared in her bedroom on the second floor, surrounded by her bridesmaids. The scent of roses and jasmine filled the air as she slipped into her exquisite gown, an ivory creation adorned with intricate lace and delicate pearls. The mansion buzzed with excitement, the kitchen overflowing with food, musicians setting up in the ballroom, and guests arriving in carriages. Then, just before the ceremony, a letter arrived. A soldier, ragged and exhausted from battle, rode to Cedar Grove to deliver the message. With trembling hands, Elizabeth's father read the note aloud. William was dead, killed by Union forces only days before. His body lay in a makeshift grave far from home. A bride in mourning. The news struck Elizabeth like a dagger. She collapsed, her pristine gown pooling around her like a wilted flower. Servants rushed to comfort her, but she pushed them away, her once bright eyes hollow with sorrow. "I will wait for him," she whispered, rocking back and forth. "He promised he would come." For days she refused to remove her wedding dress, roaming the mansion's corridors, whispering William's name. She barely ate. She barely spoke. She became a ghost of herself before death even claimed her. One evening, Elizabeth walked onto the second-floor balcony, the same spot where she and William had shared their first kiss. The full moon bathed her in silver light as she clutched her lace veil to her chest. Then, without a sound, she stepped off the ledge. Her body landed silently in the garden below, her veil drifting down after her like a final farewell. The haunting of Cedar Grove. Years passed, and Cedar Grove changed hands many times. Some owners tried to erase the tragedy, but Elizabeth refused to be forgotten. Guests reported seeing a woman in a tattered wedding gown standing on the second-floor balcony, her dark eyes filled with sorrow. Some heard faint sobbing in the dead of night, or the rustling of lace brushing against the wooden floors. Others swore they saw fleeting glimpses of her in mirrors, her reflection lingering even after they turned away. One guest, a historian named Daniel Mercer, scoffed at the idea of ghosts. He booked a room in Cedar Grove, determined to debunk the legend. But on his first night, he awoke to the distinct sound of footsteps outside his door. Curious, He grabbed a candle and opened it. There, at the end of the hallway, stood a woman in a wedding dress. Her face was pale, almost translucent, her eyes deep wells of despair. The lace of her gown was torn, dirt clinging to its hem as though she had just emerged from the grave. Daniel's breath hitched. He wanted to move, to speak, but his body refused to obey. The ghostly bride lifted a trembling hand and whispered, "Have you seen my William?" Before he could answer, she faded into nothingness. The unfinished wedding to this day, Elizabeth's spirit remains in Cedar Grove, forever trapped in the moment before her wedding. Some say she still waits for William to return, believing the war has merely delayed him. Others believe she lingers, searching for someone who will finally set her free. And on some nights, when the moon is high and the air is thick with sorrow, visitors claim they hear her soft voice drifting through the halls. "I will wait for you, my love, until the end of time." The phantom lights of Bragg Road, Saratoga, Texas. In the heart of Texas, nestled in the piney woods of East Texas, there lies a stretch of road that has baffled, mystified, and terrified those who have dared to venture down it. Bragg Road, located near the small town of Saratoga, is infamous for its eerie and unexplained phenomenon known as the phantom lights. This is a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead seem to blur, and many have wondered if they are witnessing a haunting or something much darker. The first reports of strange lights along Bragg Road surfaced in the 1940s, though some locals say the stories go even further back. A faint glow, a flicker in the distance, would appear in the dead of night, rising from the woods or hovering above the dirt road itself. These lights would shift and move unpredictably, never staying in one place for long, and would often vanish as quickly as they appeared. The lights didn't resemble anything ordinary, nor could they be attributed to car headlights or any other common source. It was as if they were conscious, shifting and weaving, taunting those who dared to get too close. Legend has it that the lights are the restless spirits of those who lost their lives on Bragg Road, or perhaps the spirits of a lost soul searching for closure. There's no shortage of theories as to what causes the lights. Some believe it's the ghostly remnants of an old logging camp from the late 1800s, while others suggest they could be the lingering spirits of soldiers from the Civil War. However, no one has been able to definitively prove the source of the lights. Local legend tells of a particularly chilling tale about a young couple who drove down Bragg Road one evening in the 1950s. The couple, newly in love, had heard rumors of the mysterious lights, but laughed them off as mere superstition. One fateful evening, they decided to take a midnight drive down Bragg Road, eager to witness the phenomenon for themselves. As they drove deeper into the woods, the lights appeared. At first, they were faint, barely visible through the trees. The couple, skeptical but intrigued, slowed the car, watching as the lights flickered in the distance. As they continued driving, the lights grew brighter, larger, and more erratic. They moved closer, as if the lights were following the car. The couple's laughter turned to unease as the lights grew in intensity. They couldn't understand how something could move so quickly and unpredictably without any obvious source. Panic set in, and the couple tried to speed away, but no matter how fast they drove, the lights stayed with them, never leaving their side. It was as though the lights were intent on keeping pace with their every movement. They turned a corner, and suddenly, the lights vanished, disappearing as if they had never been there at all. The young couple, terrified and shaken to the core, never spoke of the lights again. They moved away from Saratoga soon after, unable to escape the eerie memory of that night. Many believe that the couple's encounter was not just a random event but a warning. The lights, some say, are not just a curiosity but a manifestation of something much darker. As the years went by, more and more people began to share their own experiences with the phantom lights. Local residents claim that the lights appear more frequently on foggy nights, casting an unnatural glow over the road. They hover low, often just above the ground, and sometimes appear to be right on the road itself, forcing drivers to stop or drive carefully around them. Some believe that the lights have a specific pattern, appearing at certain times of the year or during particular phases of the moon. Others insist that the lights are entirely random, showing up whenever they please, and seemingly choosing who will witness them. It's not uncommon for drivers to see the lights from the corner of their eyes only to look back and find nothing there. It is as though the lights are playing a game with those who drive down Bragg Road. Some locals insist that the lights are a form of unfinished business. They claim that the ghosts of those who died on Bragg Road are trapped in some sort of purgatory, unable to move on to the afterlife. The lights are their way of communicating, trying to find someone who will listen and help them cross over. The feeling of being watched by these mysterious entities is palpable, and many who have dared to stop and investigate the lights report a sensation of dread creeping up on them, a sense that they are not alone in the woods. The story of the phantom lights has drawn its fair share of thrill-seekers, ghost hunters, and amateur paranormal investigators. They come from far and wide, eager to see for themselves what all the fuss is about. Some report strange recordings on their cameras, while others capture unsettling images of orbs or shadows moving across their footage. But no one has ever been able to capture the lights in a way that truly explains their origin point. One of the most chilling accounts comes from a paranormal investigator who visited Bragg Road several years ago. Armed with night vision cameras and infrared equipment, they set up a base camp near the road, hoping to make contact with whatever entity was responsible for the lights. As the night grew darker, they watched the lights appear in the distance. At first, they seemed far off, but slowly they began to move closer. The investigator and their team were frozen with fear as the lights slowly surrounded them. Then, without warning, the lights flickered out, and a cold, oppressive silence filled the air. The investigator reported feeling a sense of dread unlike anything they had ever experienced. Something in the air felt wrong, as though the very ground beneath them was alive with malice. The lights vanished, but the feeling lingered long after they left the area. Bragg Road, with its misty atmosphere and ancient trees, remains a place shrouded in mystery. The phantom lights continue to flicker in the distance, just out of reach, a haunting reminder of the unknown forces that may be at work in Saratoga's woods. Whether they are the spirits of the lost, the memories of a dark past, or something even more malevolent, the lights will undoubtedly continue to lure those brave, or foolish, enough to seek them out. To this day, those who have driven down Bragg Road after dark report seeing the strange lights, some of them even claiming that they've been followed, just like that young couple decades ago. Bragg Road may be a short stretch of dirt, but for those who have dared to drive down it in the dead of night, it's a place that will never be forgotten. In the piney woods of Saratoga, Texas, the phantom lights of Bragg Road remain, waiting, watching, and perhaps still searching for those who can help them finally move on. But maybe, just maybe, the lights don't want to be found at all. The South is full of beauty, tradition, and history. but it is also home to some of the most chilling hauntings in America. Whether it's a sorrowful bride waiting for a love that will never return, mysterious orbs of light dancing along forgotten roads, or spirits trapped within the walls of Eerie plantations, these haunted locations remind us that the past is never truly gone. So tell me, dear viewer, would you dare visit these places? Have you ever encountered something unexplainable? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the supernatural, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with more terrifying tales. Until next time, keep the lights on and stay out of the shadows. You never know what might be watching. Sweet dreams, if you can sleep at all. This has been the Haunted Tales, where nightmares come to life.